Snow White will make $14 million this week, which means Disney definitely is going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars on this movie. The original 1937 Snow White made $4 billion adjusted for inflation. The 2025 remake will lose $250 million or more.
After months of drama, industry embarrassment, and a tsunami of fan outrage, Disney has now made it official. Snow White is getting yet another reboot. This fresh announcement follows the train wreck of a remake starring Rachel Zegler, widely considered one of the studio's biggest flops in recent memory.
Snow White is officially Disney's biggest box office disaster of all time. And with the second weekend rolling in now as we speak, the train wreck is only getting worse and worse for Disney.
At a closed-door press event, Disney higher-ups pitched the new version as a strategic reset and a return to timeless storytelling, clearly hoping to win back trust and mend fences with their multi-generational audience.
Now that it's out in theaters, now that people have seen this, now that people are reviewing this, and now that we're getting the box office numbers, it's impossible to spin this any other way than a monumental, catastrophic failure for Rachel Zegler and Disney.
The Zegler-led remake was initially promoted as a bold, feminist reimagining of the 37 classic. But what Disney called progress, fans saw as a complete disregard for the original's charm.
And Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough if you are the biggest media company on earth to have that company turn against you.
Things spiraled quickly when Zegler made a series of eyebrow-raising remarks, calling the prince useless and the love story awkward, which didn't exactly sit well with die-hard fans. Clips of her interviews spread like wildfire, and before long, the internet had declared war.
She's a PR nightmare. I don't know how anyone would hire her.
Every time she opens her mouth, it's crisis mode when it comes to Disney.
But Rachel Zegler made it so hateable that you really sabotaged and took hundreds of millions of dollars from the studio. I don't know how anyone would ever want to go into business with her ever.
Behind the scenes, insiders say Disney was blindsided by the backlash. Sure, early test screenings weren't glowing, but the real panic didn't hit until the trailer dropped. That's when nostalgic fans, pop culture critics, and even casual viewers joined forces to express their dismay. It wasn't just a bad reaction, it was a sustained revolt. Anti-film hashtags trended for weeks, and Disney's PR teams were reportedly scrambling to put out fires around the clock.
1.9 out of 10 on IMDb, and those, by the way, they weren't dwarfs, they were called bandits. So the Snow White doesn't, like, the amount of, like, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Leave it the alone. Yeah, that's it. If it ain't broke, break it. Like, leave these stories alone. By the way, if she never opened her mouth and she didn't do all this nonsense, people would have gone and watched the movie. They would have made their money, but then people would have been disappointed after the math.
Now, hoping to sweep the wreckage under the rug, the studio has greenlit a brand new Snow White remake, with filming scheduled to start in late 2025. The cast remains under wraps, but Disney insists this version will honor the emotional core and visual spirit of the original. In other words, they're bringing back the beloved characters, the classic songs, and the magical fairy tale vibes that the previous versions somehow managed to erase completely.
More than 250,000 paintings like these were created by Walt Disney and his staff of artists to make the most daring adventure in the history of motion pictures, with new and amazing characters: Snow White, warm, human, the lovable 7 dwarfs. But let Walt Disney tell you about them himself.
Dwarfs' names fit their personalities. This pompous-looking individual is Doc, the self-appointed leader of the group. And this little fellow is bashful. He's secretly in love with Snow White. And this funny face is Sneezy. He has hay fever. And old Droopy Eyes is called Sleepy. And Happy here with the beaming smile. And old Sourpuss here is Grumpy, the woman hater. And last but not least is Dopey. He's nice, but sort of silly.
Disney's decision to roll out a new adaptation so soon after the last disaster shows just how desperate and high stakes this situation has become. The company has been catching heat over its string of live-action remakes, many of which have been flopping both critically and financially. With the Snow White brand teetering on the edge of total brand ruin, execs are betting that a thoughtfully crafted reboot might just salvage the franchise and restore some of the nostalgia that once made it a crown jewel.
Please. You were saying...
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk too and spit on that thing, you get me?
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
According to insiders, this upcoming version will stick much closer to the original 1937 storyline, though it'll sneak in a few carefully chosen updates. But don't expect another rewrite of the fairy tale. The changes, they claim, will be respectful rather than revisionist.
The latest victim of really bad ideas is finally here. The magical Disney DEI woke equity version of the 1937 classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But because the word dwarves is now apparently controversial, Disney took that part out of the movie altogether. And now the movie is just called Snow White, which would be like Disney taking lions out of Lion King or mermaids out of The Little Mermaid.
One producer even stated that the goal isn't to fix what isn't broken, but to breathe new life into the film's timeless themes with a touch of modern polish. It's a noticeable pivot from the last film, which critics say tried way too hard to tear everything down in the name of reinvention.
Disney absolutely deserves a lot of the blame, but so does Rachel Zegler. Let's not get it wrong. We've seen the audience scores. One of the worst ratings we've seen in history on IMDb, with Snow White sitting at a 1.5 out of 10.
Rumors about casting have already started swirling, though Disney's keeping official details under lock and key. Still, sources close to the project say the studio is hunting for a lead actress who channels old-school Hollywood glamour, someone with natural charm, a warm screen presence, and strong vocal chops. And unlike the last go-round, where off-camera interviews hijacked the conversation, this time Disney is reportedly enforcing stricter media training to make sure every public statement stays aligned with the film's tone.
It's the thing that really shocks me about this story. You know, Disney and all these media companies, they invest hundreds of millions of dollars into these projects, right? Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of like, I don't know, vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
This tighter approach to messaging comes after some brutal internal fallout. Earlier this year, leaked memos revealed behind-the-scenes clashes between Disney's creative, marketing, and PR teams during the Rachel Zegler rollout. The chaos led to a PR campaign that seemed to contradict itself every other week. Determined not to repeat that mess, the studio is now operating under much tighter controls as the new Snow White heads into development.
Yeah, this thing is officially dead. It's dead. Snow White only made $3.7 million on Friday, coming in a distant third behind Working Man and a re-release of Chosen the Last Supper. Rachel Zegler destroyed a $1 billion franchise. This is the face of a franchise destroyer.
It's not just Snow White's cinematic reputation on the chopping block. Disney also took a hit where it really hurts. Merchandise sales. Products tied to the last remake tanked so badly that major retailers were slashing prices within weeks of launch. Toys collected dust on store shelves, and apparel was practically given away. According to insiders from Disney's consumer products division, millions of dollars in unsold inventory had to be written off. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was expensive. And industry analysts are clear. Disney can't afford another merchandising fiasco tied to one of its cornerstone brands.
The fact that this film is completely falling apart, we're going to take a look at how bad this movie is actually doing in the box office, because it is hilariously bad. It is a complete and total humiliation for Disney. And like I said, they deserve it all, okay?
In a bid to turn things around, Disney has brought in a fresh creative team to lead the charge. Early buzz suggests the new screenwriter has a knack for emotional storytelling with layered character development, while the director, whose identity will reportedly be revealed soon, comes with a background in both animation and live-action hits with global success. Disney is hoping this duo will infuse the project with the right balance of heart, charm, and international appeal. Even though the plot will mostly stick to the original, some modern tweaks are expected.
This is truly like, she has to go. I'm sorry, Disney. She has to go.
She told Variety that I'm only responsible for what I feel, and then I'm responsible for how I act upon it, which makes no sense at all.
Fan favorite forest animals are making a comeback, this time with upgraded animation that combines CGI and practical effects for a more magical look. And yes, the dwarfs are returning, reimagined carefully to avoid the backlash sparked by their absence or awkward redesigns in the previous version. Music will once again take center stage, blending new songs with beloved classics like Someday My Prince Will Come and Hi-Ho.
Did the dwarfs make it or no?
Well, the CGI dwarfs did. Of course, that goes back to the original controversy where Peter Dinklage, a very talented little person actor, said, why are we doing that? We've hired a Latina actress to be Snow White. That's progressive. But you're going to hire little people to play the dwarfs? That just seems like a step backwards. And then, of course, Disney instantly buckled and said, okay, we're going to add magical creatures. And then the picture of the magical creatures leaked online, and everyone just had an absolute blast laughing at it. So the magical creatures are here in the movie. The CGI dwarfs are here in the movie. It works to a degree, but it's certainly going to be a financial hit for Disney, that's for sure.
Perhaps the most surprising move, Disney is actually going old school, bringing in veteran animators and legacy consultants who worked on past princess films. Many of these creatives helped define the iconic Disney Renaissance, and now they're being tapped to advise on everything from tone to emotional pacing. Insiders say this decision reflects a larger strategy, reconnecting with the studio's artistic roots in a last-ditch effort to win back disillusioned fans.
A few lessons for Disney. Number one, stop cannibalizing all your old IP. Like, it's really bad. It's really bad business. Number two, please stop changing all of the historic plots, which actually have meaning to generations of people, to instead become generic woke story about how woman leads revolutionary uprising and she don't need no man.
The initial press release for the new project struck an unusually humble note, tiptoeing around the previous disaster without calling out any individuals. We recognize the importance of honoring the stories that helped build Disney into what it is today, the statement read, carefully crafted PR speak for, yeah, we know we messed up. The message was clear enough. Disney gets that it's walking on thin ice. As for Rachel Zegler, radio silence. The West Side Story breakout star, once hailed as Disney's next big thing, has kept a low profile since news of the reboot dropped.
So Rachel Zegler has now decided to turn off replies on Instagram following major backlash over the Snow White movie because she is getting completely roasted in all of her comments on Instagram. Everyone is roasting her. Everyone is calling her out for her being one of the key players for why this movie is failing as badly as it is.
Her past promotional interviews, intended to champion empowerment, backfired spectacularly, with many fans labeling them tone-deaf or downright dismissive of the original film. While Zegler later insisted her words had been twisted, by then, the internet had already made up its mind. Unsurprisingly, she's nowhere near the new project. There's been no official word, but insiders confirm Disney is opting for a clean slate, both in casting and public image. Whether Zegler will eventually address her absence is anyone's guess, but for now, she seems content to let the storm pass. And really, Disney would rather the spotlight stay on the film itself, not another social media circus.
Snow White starring Rachel Zegler opened to a dismal $43 million, snagging the title of the lowest debut weekend for any Disney live-action remake, beating 2019's Dumbo at $46 million. They beat Dumbo. Shame on you, but it's for the worst ever.
Meanwhile, fan reactions have been cautiously hopeful. Online forums lit up with mixed emotions, skepticism, nostalgia, even a few glimmers of excitement. Conversations have shifted from anger to curiosity. Can Disney actually pull off a redemption arc? Just give me the magic back, one user wrote. The music, the romance, the enchanted forest vibe. If they stick the landing, I'll be first in line. That's exactly the kind of sentiment Disney is banking on. Pre-production is slated to kick off in late 2025, with a theatrical release set for spring 2027. The marketing machine is already gearing up, with plans for early teaser art, soundtrack sneak peeks, and glossy behind-the-scenes content to stoke anticipation.
And as we saw last weekend with the first weekend for Snow White, Rachel Zegler was coping real hard. She, of course, was saying things like on Instagram like, thank you so much for making this the #1 movie in the world, guys. And well, this time around with the second weekend, her approach is completely different, okay?
Even Disney parks are getting in on the act, with Snow White-themed updates rumored for select attractions ahead of the film's launch. Whether this bold new strategy will actually succeed where the last one flopped is still anyone's guess. But one thing's for sure, Disney isn't about to let Snow White's legacy be buried by a single high-profile disaster. This reboot isn't just another cash grab remake. It's a full-blown redemption arc for a studio that once set the gold standard for fairy tales. If they get the balance right this time, it could be a powerful reminder of why Snow White was the film that started it all.
And they're acting as though like, oh, you should know what a huge movie star she is, and she looks completely hideous here, is perfection. is perfection. They think they're like doing a trend, or they think they're making snappy content. What it really is just adding to the total humiliation where the people at the theater don't even know who the new Disney princess is.
2 tickets, please.
For which movie?
And it gets worse. They actually posted a video inside of the theater. Now, you'll notice that there's no one there waiting in line to buy tickets, even though Rachel Zegler compares herself to priceless art hanging in the Louvre and says that people will always wait in line to buy tickets for her.
That at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Not true.
Behind the curtain, Disney execs are reportedly laser-focused on keeping everything aligned, from the emotional beats to the tiniest design details. Every element, from casting and costumes to the lighting and score, is undergoing intense scrutiny across multiple departments. The goal? To create something that honors the studio's heritage while still feeling fresh and artistically relevant. Disney seems to know that no amount of corporate polish can substitute for real storytelling magic. And if this version is going to work, it has to feel like a genuine return to form. Even the studio's harshest critics admit, if any movie can help Disney reclaim its fading crown, it's this one. The stakes aren't just about box office returns, they're about legacy. Reimagining Snow White again isn't just a creative decision. It's a litmus test for whether Disney can evolve while staying true to what made audiences fall in love in the first place. The question isn't if they can make another version, it's whether they can win back the trust of an audience still holding out for the fairest one of all.